The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Trevor, you may never get a media pass to a Vancouver Canucks game after this, okay? Because this ain't Sportsnet, this ain't TSN. It's the Edmonton Oilers, okay? Can we do this? What's the show called again? Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also Canucks writer since 2013, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's anti-Edmonton episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks because it is your Canucks every damn day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And hey, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also got to let you know before we dive into things here that today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. Kyle, you and I, in October, November, we did an episode that said the Vancouver Canucks have ended the Edmonton Oilers season. And now here we are on the precipice of the biggest regular season game, perhaps in Canucks history. We're going to tell you why that's the case. We're going to break it down because this is one of the biggest games in the regular season in a long time for your Vancouver Canucks. We're going to talk about the matchup, and we're going to tell you why we hate Edmonton and why the Canucks, are a better team, okay? All that good stuff. Again, it's the home of the West Coast bias, okay? This ain't TSN, this ain't Sportsnet, okay? It is your Locked On Canucks, home of the West Coast bias. Again, previewing the biggest game of the year. Before we get into it, I got to introduce my co-host. He hates Edmonton even more than I do. Kyle Bowden. How's it going, brother?
Putting on this lotion, getting ready for the show. This is the biggest show of the year, okay? Vancouver versus the Oilers in a quote-unquote must-win game, a quote-unquote divisional title matchup. How did we get here on both ends, right? How are the Canucks here? This wasn't supposed to be the case. And how are the Oilers here? What a magical season, straight up. Last Saturday of the regular season, we got two of the best teams in the league facing off for the division title pretty much tomorrow, okay? If Edmonton wins all their games, it's going to make life extremely difficult for the Vancouver Canucks. That team's on a mission. That is possible. They play Arizona tonight and Vancouver tomorrow. Boom, bam. Again, the division is on the line tomorrow. And I think I got to say a couple things, okay? Straight up. You said it earlier, right? The West Coast bias. Speaking of which, this is produced out of the Don't Doze Art Lab, this show, Locked On Canucks, and Trevor's workplace. One loves the Don't Doze Art Lab for supplying that neighborly love. And number two, I think tomorrow is it's the start of what I've been saying week after week after week, okay? There's a small chance that JT Miller, okay? JT Miller becomes the face of the NHL based on a long playoff run, based on the way he plays, based on the way he looks, based on his media scrums. There's that realm there where if the Canucks are the, in the final four of the league, he becomes one of the most popular players. And I think that kind of starts tomorrow when I'm going to say it, shuts down Connor McDavid. This is the home of the West Coast bias, okay? For real, dude. For real. And I don't know what shutdown means when it comes to McDavid. Does that mean he gets a goal and an assist and a punch in the face and the Canucks win? Maybe. Does that mean he gets no points? Maybe. But I think it's going to happen, and JT Miller is going to go toe-to-toe with Connor McDavid. Do I want to go negative? I don't know. But isn't that so surprising? Because didn't we think it was going to be Pettersson versus McDavid? I think early on this year, early on in our run against with Locked On Canucks, we mentioned how it would be so cool to see Pettersson and McDavid go toe-to-toe for years and years and years and years to come. But like we saw in game one of the regular season, all those days ago, like Rick Tocchet is not set on that. It's a JT Miller versus Connor McDavid thing.
Yeah, and so it should be JT Miller versus Connor McDavid. I think, one of the most impressive things about the start of the season was JT Miller matching up against Connor McDavid and outscoring McDavid while he was on the ice. And that wasn't really a fluke either. I think JT Miller, alongside Brock Besser, so to me, that was one of the biggest holy bleep moments of the season early on was, Miller and Besser, this duo who was just dreadful defensively in 22-23, coming out of the gates and, playing against Connor McDavid and outscoring that line when they were on the ice. And they did it 3 times, okay? They did it in 3 games, early on in the season. And I know it was a different Oilers team back then a little bit, but you're right, Kyle. I think that the big matchup going into this game is JT Miller against Connor McDavid. And, shout out to the commenters as well. Deandre saying, shouldn't it be Hughes versus McDavid? Look, I would say Hughes and McDavid are the 2 best players in the game, but really it's, when you play hockey, you're talking about matchups, right? It's center versus center, winger versus winger. And, really it's JT Miller does got to shut down.
Isn't it like defenseman against best forward too? I mean, Anders has a great point, a grand point, and maybe like I'm only associating Miller versus McDavid because the past has shown us that Miller's just always intense, and he's nervous, like that good nervous energy for tomorrow's game. Like this game matters a lot to a guy like JT Miller and the Vancouver Canucks. But in recent history, not only have we seen Quinn Hughes, elevate his game, right? Like he's playing unreal right now, unreal at the right time. We've also seen like a slight bit of a little bit more edge. Like these games matter to him a lot too. And maybe we see the start of this, and that's a rivalry, right? Between the Oilers and the Canucks again. And just more notably, that matchup between Quinn Hughes, the best defenseman in hockey, against Connor McDavid.
Yeah, no, it is a matchup for sure. I have been kind of hyper focused on the Miller versus McDavid matchup, too. But for me too, Kyle, we do got to talk about Elias Pettersson because Miller's going to draw that heavy matchup versus McDavid, and does that leave Pettersson against Draisaitl? And it's another thing we should mention too. McDavid still hasn't come back from injury yet.
Yeah,
ahead of tonight's game against the Coyotes, he's day to day. He's questionable. I could certainly see McDavid potentially sitting out tonight and coming back against the Canucks on Saturday. But if he is out, that kind of changes the narrative a bit too. But we talked about it yesterday, how the Canucks, if Pettersson and Lindholm can unlock their potential, and I think they're on the right track based on how they've played recently, then Pettersson, for sure, this is a huge moment for him. A huge moment for him to kind of have that breakout game, have that holy bleep game, and just take over and do something, man. Do something. And again, the bar's high for this guy. He's been, still pushing a point a game over the past 30-ish games, but obviously not the same Pettersson. In this moment, the biggest regular season game ever, this is the time for Pettersson to show up and put a stamp on the game.
The bar's right now low for Pettersson, okay? Straight up. We haven't seen that assassin, that excellent game. He's making strides towards, getting better. We saw his goal against Arizona, but he only had 1 shot in that game. Prior to that goal, he fanned on a couple attempts. The confidence is not there. Again, the bar right now is low for Pettersson, but I think, again, we mentioned this on yesterday's episode. There's this avenue, right? There's this pay-per-view event. It's like for a guy like Pettersson, I know it's a team game, but like he's not even a top 3 player in this game, a top 4 player in this game. Like going into it, right? Like based on how he's played recently, and I hope that gives him a little bit of an edge. I hope that the moment, again, one of the biggest hockey games in Vancouver Canucks regular season history, I hope that in itself motivates him to stop playing it safe, Stop playing it safe. Be that guy. Be that attacker. Be that assassin. I hope it wakes him up.
Yeah, I hope so. And again, I've liked the line so far with Bester and Höglander, but this is a huge moment for them. And I think on the other side, maybe we'll get into the rest of the Canucks lines because there have been some changes recently in practice and a big one we got to talk about. But man, when I look at this Oilers side, because again, we've talked about the matchups, the Oilers have been, statistically and analytically one of the best teams in the league this season. In fact, there's an argument that they've been the best team in the league this season. And, a good argument as well that they were just really let down by goaltending early on in the season before Woodcroft got fired. But I'm still looking at this team and, I think it's a fair argument to think that, McDavid and Draisaitl is just going to will this team to a cup in the near future. But I'm still looking at this team and, Evander Kane's in your top 6. He won 20 plus games without a goal. Warren Fogle, Dylan Hall, Corey Perry, Matthias Janmark, Connor Brown. Like those are the other wingers. The other 6 wingers from lines 2 to 4 for the Edmonton Oilers. I'm just not convinced that this is, a deeper, better team than what we've seen even last year. And I know maybe I'm being a hater because they've been a great team this season, but I don't know. I just think this Edmonton Oilers team still has flaws. They still have a goalie who, even despite the fact he's played better, isn't, an upper echelon goalie in the NHL right now. So I'm going to hit on the Oilers. And again, without McDavid and Draisaitl absolutely carrying the weight, this is a flawed team still.
But bro, like, we talked about the Sea of Granlunds yesterday on the Locked On episode. It's not like some of those guys in the bottom six have given us this braggadocious attitude about our depth, right? And again, Elias Pettersson is not Elias Pettersson right now. Like, it's a huge thing that's holding the Canucks potential back. You mentioned how, point per game player in his last 30. Like, bro, again, the bar is low. This guy's 24 points in his last 30 games, including 7 goals. It's a big reason why the Canucks don't look sexy, why they're not fresh, why, again, we're harping on, the bottom 6 scoring and the blah, 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 and this is wrong and this is wrong. It's like, dude, Pettersson is wrong. That is what's wrong with the Vancouver Canucks. And I hope tomorrow he just seizes the moment, man. Just be that guy. It's going to be a playoff-like game. It's the biggest regular season game in so long. Again, how did we get here in September? We're not thinking about winning the division. And then 2 months later, we won the division, right? 3 months later, we won the division. We're like 30 points up on the Oilers. Fast forward to the now, and it's like, how have we gotten here where this game means so much for both teams? And it's a team game, I know, and there's a Thatcher Demko injury there too, but the Canucks schedule in recent history, like, it hasn't been the heaviest, but because they haven't gotten the utmost from Elias Pettersson, the new $11.6 million man, they've kind of found themselves in this situation where this game matters. I guess what I'm trying to say, he's kind of responsible for us not having 2 or 3 more points in the standings, and it's kind of stressing me out. Look at my hair. Look at that bald spot, bro. How are we here, bro? I was supposed to be coasting to the playoffs, not stressing out, but tomorrow's game, it's a write-off. Yo, my girlfriend just hit me up. We had plans tomorrow morning. You know what she said? She's not really feeling good. She's like, yo, we might have to delay the plans in the morning. Can we hang out later? On this Saturday evening, right? She still wants to see the Hindu god Kyle Bowen, okay? And man, oh man, I told her, bro, I can't. Unless you want to go watch the Oilers versus Canucks. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. Tomorrow's the biggest day of my life.
Wow, the biggest day of your life. That's a bold proclamation. But hey, I think on the other side, let's give our take on why this is the biggest regular season game for the Canucks in recent history, because there's some other examples out there, but I think for a couple of reasons, this is the biggest one. And let's talk about some of the matchups as well that matter in this game. We talked about Hughes McDavid, Miller McDavid, but there's a couple other ones I want to touch on. And let's leave it up to the listeners. What are you looking for most in tomorrow night's game against the Edmonton Oilers? What stands out to you in terms of matchups, in terms of storyline? What's on your mind as the Canucks are about to play their biggest regular season game of all time? All that and more on the other side. Before we get to that, we got to shout out a new sponsor, okay? Welcome to the family, Policy Genius. Okay. You heard it. Policy Genius. They are the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money, so you can provide your family with the financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams because, hey, who wants a finger up the you-know-what just for some insurance, okay? But, hey, you know what? With the Policy Genius, don't got to worry about it. They help you compare options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents and geniuses who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found their best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl.
People, we back doing this, and that's teeing up this matchup against the Edmonton Oilers, man. I have to stop myself there because I still can't fathom the fact that we're kind of here. Like, this is, Trevor, I know you don't think it's do or die or must win game, blah, 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 but it is. I'm not in any way, shape, or form mature enough to go into the playoffs knowing that the Vancouver Canucks blew a 30-point lead, a 25-point lead, a 28-point lead, an 18-point lead, a 16-point lead, a 14-point lead, a 10-point lead, an 8-point lead to the Edmonton Oilers, you know? I can't do that. I can't do that. Now, I will say this. I also don't want this to happen. I don't want McDavid getting his 100th assist of the season against our guys, okay? For real. I don't want him having that mojo. I want him, gripping the stick tight for it. I want JT Miller and company making it hard for him. And I don't want him to have that historic moment again against my Canucks, man. This is it. This is it. This is the start to June. Tomorrow is a big day for hockey fans here on the West Coast, the best coast of Canada, and wherever you're listening / enjoying this program. I mean, look at this, okay? Jacob Cozy. I don't know what you're going to have to say about this, Trevor. I hope it's only good things, the greatest things, but he's telling us that he lives in Edmonton, but was born in Vancouver and hates everything about the Oilers. So, in other words, you're the greatest fan of all time.
Yeah, shout out to Jacob and all the listeners. But yeah, I mean, I go to Edmonton once or twice a year, and I hate myself every time I do it. Yeah, it's not a fun place to be, and F the Oilers. That's what I got to say about that. But look, when you talk about McDavid and the 100th assist, the interesting thing about the Oilers and the Canucks over time is that neither team has really been good at the same time, right? It's the Oilers through all the 80s just dummied the Canucks. Gretzky, obviously, I guess he was with the LA at that point, but scored his 802nd goal to break Howe's record against the Canucks. A lot of Oilers and past Oilers, they've caused bad memories for the Canucks. And then obviously the Sedins came along. Mm-hmm. They dominated for about a decade against Edmonton. But now we're finally at a moment in time where the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks are both good at the same time. And that has rarely ever happened. And, kind of to circle back to the headline of this episode, the biggest regular season game ever. Part of the reason why I think this is the biggest regular season game ever for the Canucks, they've been in situations where they've been, playing for their playoff lives, like early in the West Coast Express era when they clinched in 2001 and 2002 to play Colorado and Detroit. But in those years, you kind of knew that even though they made it to the playoffs, they probably weren't going on a long run. In this scenario, you got two teams who are cup contenders. One team in the Canucks who was, 18 points ahead of the Oilers at Christmas time, 17 points ahead of them in February, whooped them in 3 games early in the season. And now you have the Oilers who have come up from the grave and are about to steal the division from the Canucks. So for me, this is the biggest regular season game in Canucks history. I know they've clinched. I know, if they do lose, it's not, the end of the world necessarily. But I think there's a lot of gravitas in this game because these two are on a crash course to meet in round 2 if they can both beat their round 1 opponents. I'm going to say it right now. I don't think this is the last Oilers Canuck game of the season. I think this is the precursor for what these two teams might do against each other in the playoffs.
This is the precursor for the NHL's next best rivalry. I just switched the title to this video. That may sound like we're over-exaggerating, right? Or just leaning into this whole West Coast bias. The Vancouver Canucks are the best thing in hockey, blah, blah, blah. Bro, look at all the talent these two teams have. And going into this game, the best defenseman versus the best forward. You got JT Miller, another type of protagonist, the unknown alien abilities or the inconsistent alien abilities of Elias Pettersson, the Thatcher Demko thing. Like, there's a lot here. And the whole Canadian thing and the whole fact that these two really haven't been good at the same time for a very long time. And I don't even know the last time these two met in the playoffs. I know they haven't met in the playoffs in my lifetime. Gives me this animosity /hate /desire to witness some of the best hockey in my life between both these teams. And I think that's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to see a glimpse of it. But as Trevor says, round 2 in a couple of weeks, the Oilers Canucks, honestly, sign me up for that.
I've been saying it for months, and I hope it comes to fruition. I think that would be so much fun for these two teams to meet up in the playoffs. But again, we're talking about tonight, the biggest game in regular season Canucks history unofficially. And, another thing to watch for tomorrow night's game is, the third line. And Kyle, I kind of wanted to say this before yesterday's episode. I ended up holding off, but I kind of told you off the record that one thing I wanted to see was Lindholm, Blueger, and Garland play together. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it looks like those three are going to get a chance to play together ahead of this game against the Oilers. Now, I will say, Garland and Joshua, sorry, I said Blueger, Garland and Joshua and Lindholm, Garland and Joshua have been a tonic for the Canucks, right? It seems like no matter who their center is, when those two are on the same line, magic seems to happen. I mean, we all like the best line in hockey with Blueger, but early on in the season, before Blueger was even there, Suter was on that line, and they did fantastic. They looked great with JT Miller, Connor Garland, boosted up Elias Pettersson. And now I think if these guys truly want to have, Lindholm play down the middle, I do love the idea of having Garland and Joshua on that on the wing for Elias Lindholm. So again, Pettersson has been going full steam. But when I look at this Oilers team, if you can have a third line that's going to dominate the competition, and I do think a third line of Lindholm, Joshua, and Garland have the ability to do that, I think that's a huge bonus for the Canucks going into this game on Saturday.
I think everything that you just said is closer to fruition if Demko's in net. Honestly, the Canucks are going to need a lot of saves against a team like the Oilers, and not to, love them so much or show them too much appreciation, but let's be honest. I mean, those guys have gone through a lot in the playoffs in recent history, and it's safe to say that Draisaitl, McDavid, and company are just on a mission. Like, they're going to do whatever it takes, and Demko is a guy that allows the Vancouver Canucks to buy some time and work through some of these experiments that they're still spewing out in game 80. Real talk. It's let me ask you this, and I want you to also name me JT Miller's line mates going into tomorrow's game, because if everything's switching, it's news to me. But are you a little concerned that we're in game 80 and I mean, sure, it's one thing to talk about the third line and Lindholm's line mates, but here we are again looking for JT Miller's line mates.
Yeah, that doesn't concern me as much, because I think much like Garland and Joshua, JT Miller's just succeeded whoever he's with. Now, I know there's a couple weird ones, like the game where Baines and Lafferty were on his line. But for me, when I think about Miller, it's interesting because now you got Besser and Höglander on that top line. So I'm curious to see how they do shake it up, to be honest. And I think we're still waiting on that. I'm less concerned about JT, although if you're going to have him in a matchup role against McDavid, I think you want some guys with some defensive responsibility on that line. And, P.U. Suter comes to mind, Ilya Mikheyev comes to mind. I hope it's not those two together. I honestly, in a game like this, would have Besser back with Miller, and then someone like Mikheyev or Suter or Podkolzin on that line with him. Because I do think you can't just put Miller with, the doldrums of the Sea of Grandlands and guys from the fourth line and expect it to work, because, again, this guy's going to be going against the best player in the world.
Here we go again, man. Mikheyev in the top 6. Game 80, buddy. Can't wait. For real. Yeah. So I don't know the actual practice lines too. Miller, we don't really know who's going to be playing with. Oof. Blah blah blah. A lot to.
So I do have the practice lines here, and
okay, thank you.
But it was a bit shocking at first, but Besser had a maintenance day, so Miller skated with Pius Suter and Nils Amon. But Besser had a maintenance day, so the way I look at it, it was Höglander, Pettersson, Mikheyev, Suter, Miller, and then what would be Besser, Joshua, Lindholm, Garland. And honestly, when I think of my ideal lines, that's kind of what I want to see right now, because I think again, Miller and Besser has worked. They've worked with Pius Suter really well. For the most part. And then Ilya Mikheyev, I know he's got hands of stone right now, but I think, he's hustled. He's playing a good defensive game. I think he can go bang in some rebounds and let Höglander and Pettersson be the creative guys on that line. So I know it's not perfect. This team definitely needs another top 6 winger. But when I think about ideal lines, to me, this makes sense right now. Höglander, Pettersson, Mikheyev, Suter, Miller, Besser, Joshua, Lindholm, Garland.
You know why it kind of makes sense to me? This is such a crazy thing to say, because Mikheyev in the top 6 is so frustrating. Shout out to the effort, shout out to the hustle, but even shout out to the puck retrieval, which is pretty necessary if you're playing with guys like Höglander and Pettersson. But I don't really trust this guy to even make a bank pass to the point. That being said, I also don't really care who plays with Pettersson, because again, it's been 30 games, 24 points in his last 30 games. The only person that will wake Pettersson up or make things easier for Pettersson is Elias Pettersson. Straight up, it's not Lindholm, it's Pettersson. We've seen him attack. We've seen him do things. I saw a clip of, this guy moving around defenseman, dangling. Do your deeks, bro. That's the Pettersson we're missing. Not this safe player. Not this player that's only trying to be cerebral with where he's sending the puck. You know how this whole notion about, he's got to move his feet. He's got to move his feet. Maybe that's not an attack on what he's doing in the neutral zone. It's about what he's doing in the offensive zone. He's got to be more forward. Again, more of an assassin. And Maybe, just maybe, I hope so. I'm putting it out there as a Hindu. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen tomorrow. The return of Elias Pettersson, an alien invasion. Okay, probably already going to happen in 2024, but it's going to happen in ice hockey terms tomorrow.
I love it, man. Let's make a couple other pregame prophecies to wrap up the show. Get to a couple comments on the other side. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your team every day. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowen. Wrapping up the show on the other side after shouting our friends over at Indeed and Factor Meals. All right. Indeed, they are the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Okay. So when Kyle Bowen is looking for a guy to replace me on Locked On Canucks, you know he's going to use Indeed. Okay. Don't spend hours, Kyle, on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. Something I love about Indeed is that they make it easy, okay? They even make it easier than Staples. Sorry, Staples. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search. With Indeed, matching as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Boom! It's hiring at warp speed. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Call for everyone. Need to hire? You need. All right, you know how it is. If you want the Canucks to win the Stanley Cup, you got to put that good karma out in the atmosphere. You got to work for it, okay? And that includes treating your body right. So this weekend, I'm going camping. I'm gonna drink a few brewskis, okay? But I'm also gonna try to eat healthy, and one way to do that is by using Factor Meals, okay? Every fresh, never frozen meal by Factor Meals is chef crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein, or Vegan and Veggie. Okay, looking for gourmet meals? Look no further. Try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. No fuss, no mess meals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. And you know what? Factor is your solution for fast, premium meals without the need for cooking. Because Kyle, I know you and I, we could cook, but we're busy guys, okay? So Factor's got the solution for you and me and also you. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active.
Man, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight in Vancouver, all my real fans.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about games that matter on April the 13th. What a time to be finally back alive for Vancouver Canucks fans. It's a beautiful thing. Trevor Beggs, you finally start to do this to me, and that's look like yourself, for real. I can tell the playoffs are around the corner because you're looking fresh, you're looking excited. And again, for the first time in your 20s, outside of that Willie D run in 2015, which again doesn't really count. Like I definitely want to forget Willie D being the coach of the Canucks. You're going to be watching playoff games and maybe at a bar. You know what I'm saying? So this is like new territory / dreamlike territory that you've always wanted.
Yeah, man, I will say this. The last non-COVID Canucks playoff game I watched at a bar, again, I've said it before, I didn't even live with my wife, and now I have a wife and 2 kids. I was at the Lamplighter in Gastown, and I was so jacked up. Canucks up 3-0 over the Flames, and of course, they lose that one 7-3. I was pissed off. I ended up having a good night, but I was rattled, man. But, that's what sports is all about. It's about the emotion of being involved, and God, I hope you and I are out there watching some games at the pub. And hey, you know what? Hopefully some of the listeners of Locked On Canucks, maybe you guys will join us.
Why not, man? And maybe we'll be in Vegas watching a road game between the Canucks and Vegas. I mean, look at this comment from Bud Hockey. Okay, Kyle, do you want to still play Vegas? Are you still confident? Mark Stone will be back game 1. Again, another comment. And you know who else might be back in game one? Elias Pettersson, okay? The Vancouver Canucks have not been a team that fires on all cylinders in quite some time. And when that happens, the NHL is going to be put on notice, okay? You have not seen anything yet. The Vancouver Canucks can be twice the team they are right now. And a lot of that has to do with the confidence of Elias Pettersson, the execution of Elias Pettersson. If he does well, the trickle-down effect leads everyone else to, just be themselves and have more faith. You know how Demko gives the whole team confidence, right? They always say that about a goaltender, right? That boat of confidence, that ease. I'm telling you, when one of the best hockey players in the world is back to playing like one of the best hockey players in the world, and it tells the rest of the team that, oh, we also have this guy again. I forgot about this guy. We have Hughes, Miller, Demko. I forgot about, you know what I'm saying? The confidence is going to be through the roof.
Yeah, again, I think this is the number one key for the Canucks to go on a long run, and a big key for them to beat the Oilers on Saturday night is Elias Pettersson getting going. Now, I will say this ahead of the game, and I think it needs to be said, but the Canucks are deservedly underdogs in this game, and I would say they'd be underdogs even if Demko is in net, and it's projected to be Casey DeSmith in net. So, the Edmonton Oilers have been one of the best teams in hockey for a while. I know Oilers fans coming after us for our old videos there on the Locked On Canucks feed.
Bring it.
But here's the thing: this is a huge moment. I know I've mentioned it before in the show. Man or mouse? What are the Canucks going to do in one of the biggest games of the season? And I've heard the narrative out there that like this game doesn't matter. And I don't know, Kyle, you kind of thrown that in my face a bit too. This game does matter, and it's not just like, oh, it's regular season. To me, it's not just about seeding. The Canucks lose this game, they're still making the playoffs. But again, this is a team you may face in the playoffs, okay? You do not want to lay an egg against a potential playoff opponent, especially on the third last game of the regular season. I mean, the true difference in this game is, again, home ice if these two teams meet up. And also it's kind of the difference between playing what looks like either LA or Nashville, right? It looks like the loser of the division will play LA, the winner will play Nashville, unless Vegas catches up to Nashville. So to me, obviously rather play Nashville, but I'm not too concerned about that. It's looking good against a team that, again, could be a potential playoff opponent. And I'm going to put it out there, man. I think the Canucks are going to win. I think the Canucks are going to rise up. I think it's going to be a magical moment, but it's going to be a tough one, man. It really is. So I'm going to say a close one, a 4-3 win. Let's say Brock Besser gets the winner. JT Miller and Brock Besser. I want to say Elias Pettersson's going to break out and have this amazing game, but I think it's going to be Miller and Besser are the ones that are going to show up in this one. And Quinn Hughes. Team America.
Team America, man. Hey, like I said, man, if this version of the Vancouver Canucks wins the Stanley Cup, when the 2026 Olympics rolls around, mark my words, clip this, I'm going to become a Team USA fan. It's just the truth. I'm going to stay loyal to the hockey players that fulfilled my ultimate dream, and most of those guys at the top seem to be American for your Vancouver Canucks. Yeah, tomorrow, man, it's the start of the NHL's next big rivalry. I don't mind saying that. I think the writing is on the wall for that to happen. I mean, realistically speaking, the Oilers are going to be good for a long time, right? As long as McDavid and Draisaitl stay there. We best believe the same thing is with the Canucks and Pettersson and company and Hughes and blah, blah, blah. And what kind of creates that rivalry is games like this. It's moments like this. It's all lining up to be eventful. And we got to remember, man, in the Vancouver Canucks, like, they got to be ready off the jump. We're talking about elite athletes, right? Getting their ass kicked early on in the season, had all that doubt. The Oilers are looking at tomorrow as the ultimate FU type of game. And I hope the Canucks say FU right back and give us a classic. And again, just give us a dub, man. Make us be the joyous ones on a hockey night in Canada on a Saturday, okay? One last thing. You know what I'm going to do before this game starts as Trevor just disappears because of his internet? I guess I got to end the show now. I'm excited, man. Tomorrow is Saturday. Hockey night in Canada. Boom, bam. This game matters. You best believe I'm heading over to the Garden. Okay? For real. I'm picking only the finest of finest. I'm rolling it up. I'm lighting it up. And I'm teaming myself up for possibly one of the top 10 sports moments of my fandom, of my life. Okay? It's been a while since games like this really mattered. The sun is shining here on the West Coast. And meaningful hockey is way, 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 way back. And as always, a big motivating factor is this, okay? It's the Edmonton Oilers. Anyways, that's Locked On Canucks. My name's Kyle Ballin. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Join the Discord, okay? Talk to us early and often on the toilet. Link is in the bio. Click it. Join the fam. More news there. And one more time, the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, straight up. And Kyle and I got you covered for everything here on Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every day. Shoot, man, I'm out in the wilderness. I mean, I'm actually going to be missing this game live. So I've taken my phone. I put every single notification on silent so that when I come back into service, I can watch this game on Sunday without interruptions. No one called me. No one talked to me. I need to see what happens with my own eyes without any interruptions. So yeah, that's my weekend, man. Straight up. But enjoy the game wherever you are. And again, as the Canucks, wrap up the regular season, get it to the players. We got you covered here on Locked On Canucks. Again, that's another episode. Make sure you go subscribe or follow us wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hit the like button. Hit the like button. If this video gets 50 likes, the Canucks are probably going to win. That's just the truth.
There we go. Love it. All right, bro. That's another episode. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy, Kyle Bowen. Again, go Canucks, go. F the Edmonton Oilers. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.